Here's something that will shatter everything you think. You know about relationships? The men who seem the most emotionally detached are actually creating the deepest emotional connections with their wives, while other men are desperately trying to please, overthinking every conversation and walking on eggshells around their partner's emotions. Stoic men are building marriages that last decades with women who genuinely light up when they walk through the door. This isn't about being cold or distant. This is about understanding a psychological truth that most men completely miss. Your emotional stability is the foundation of her emotional security. I'm going to show you why Stoic principles create happier marriages. Not because they teach you to suppress your emotions, but because they teach you to master them. And when a man masters his own emotional world, he creates space for his wife to feel safe, appreciated, and genuinely free to be herself. Most relationship advice tells you to be more expressive, more communicative, more emotionally available. But here's what nobody talks about. Women don't need you to match their emotional intensity. They need you to be the calm in their storm. Let me start with a story that illustrates everything. Two couples are dealing with the same crisis: unexpected job loss. In the first couple, when the wife expresses her fears about money, the husband immediately mirrors her anxiety. "You're right. What are we going to do? This is terrible. I don't know how we'll pay the bills." His good intentions, showing empathy, being emotionally connected, actually amplify her stress. In the second couple, when the wife expresses the same fears, the Stoic husband responds differently. He acknowledges her concern without absorbing her emotion. "I understand you're worried. This situation is challenging, but we've handled difficulties before. Let's look at our options tomorrow morning." He doesn't dismiss her feelings, but he doesn't let them become his feelings. The first wife goes to bed that night with doubled anxiety, her own plus her husband's. The second wife goes to bed knowing that no matter what happens, her partner won't fall apart. She feels her husband's quiet confidence, and it gives her permission to process her own emotions without having to manage his. This is emotional leadership. It's not about being unfeeling. It's about being unshakable. The Stoic husband understands something profound. Emotions are contagious, but so is emotional stability. When you remain centered during turbulence, you become an anchor point for everyone around you. Your wife doesn't need another person spiraling. She needs someone who can think clearly when thinking becomes difficult. Here's a counterintuitive truth that will transform how you approach relationships. The more desperate you are to make your wife happy, the less happy she becomes. This isn't because women are complicated or contradictory. It's because desperation reveals insecurity, and insecurity is the opposite of strength. When you constantly seek her approval, when you change your behavior based on her moods, when you take responsibility for her emotional state, you're actually communicating something dangerous: that you don't trust yourself to be enough. Think about the most attractive qualities in any person: confidence, self-assurance, inner peace. These qualities cannot coexist with desperate need for external validation. When you make your wife's happiness your primary mission, you accidentally signal that you have no mission of your own. Stoic men understand that happiness cannot be given to another person. It can only be inspired, and inspiration comes from witnessing strength, not neediness. This creates what I call the security paradox. The more secure you are in yourself, the more secure she feels with you. The less you need her validation, the more she wants to give it. The less you depend on her emotions for your stability, the more stable your entire relationship becomes. This doesn't mean being a robot. It means you don't let her emotions hijack your emotional state. When she's having a bad day, you don't automatically assume you did something wrong. When she's stressed about work, you don't absorb that stress as your own responsibility to fix. Most men fail here because they confuse empathy with absorption. Real empathy is understanding her feelings without becoming consumed by them. It's holding space for her experience while maintaining your own center. Imagine you're a lighthouse during a storm. The waves crash against you, the wind howls around you, but you remain standing, steady, providing guidance through the chaos. That's what emotional non-reactivity looks like in practice. You're not ignoring the storm. You're not being moved by it. When your wife comes home frustrated about her boss, the reactive man immediately starts problem-solving or gets frustrated himself. The Stoic man listens, acknowledges her experience, and maintains his emotional equilibrium. He becomes a safe harbor for her emotions rather than another turbulent sea. Stoic men have something that weak men don't: a mission that exists independently of their partner's approval. This isn't about neglecting your relationship, it's about bringing strength to it rather than drawing strength from it. When your primary source of fulfillment comes from your wife's happiness with you, you become emotionally dependent. When your fulfillment comes from living according to your values and pursuing meaningful work, you become emotionally attractive. Women are drawn to men who are going somewhere, not men who are waiting for permission to move. Here's what this looks like practically. You have goals that inspire you, regardless of whether she supports them or not. You have principles you live by, whether she agrees with them or not. You have a vision for your life that exists independently of her mood on any given day. This doesn't mean you ignore her input or disregard her feelings. It means you're not paralyzed by them. You can hear her concerns, consider her perspective, and still make decisions based on your own judgment and values. This is where most men get Stoicism wrong. They think it means not caring, but Stoic philosophy teaches the opposite. It teaches you to care deeply while responding wisely. When your wife is upset, the Stoic response isn't indifference, it's thoughtful action. You listen without immediately trying to solve. You validate without taking ownership of emotions that aren't yours. You support without becoming codependent. The controlled response principle recognizes that there's a gap between what happens to you and how you respond. In that gap lies your power. Most men react immediately. They get defensive, they mirror emotions, they panic, they try to fix everything instantly. Stoic men use that gap to choose their response consciously. Now let's talk about why this creates happier wives, because this is where the magic happens. When a woman knows her partner won't be emotionally destabilized by her feelings, she feels free to actually feel them. She doesn't have to manage your emotions on top of her own. She doesn't have to suppress her stress to avoid stressing you. She doesn't have to perform emotional labor to keep you stable. This creates a profound sense of relief and safety that most women have never experienced in relationships. Think about it. How often do women say they feel like they have to be the emotional manager of the relationship? How often do they complain about partners who fall apart whenever conflict arises? How often do they describe feeling like they're dating a child rather than a man? Stoic men eliminate this dynamic entirely, but it goes deeper than just relief. When a woman feels genuinely secure with her partner, when she knows he won't crumble under pressure, when she trusts his emotional stability, something beautiful happens. She starts to relax into her femininity. She doesn't have to be the strong one all the time. She doesn't have to be hypervigilant about his emotional state. She doesn't have to walk on eggshells or constantly monitor her own expression to avoid setting him off. Here's another psychological truth that cuts to the core of human relationships. Respect and attraction are inseparable, and respect cannot be demanded, manipulated, or negotiated. It can only be earned through consistent demonstration of character. When you remain calm during chaos, when you make decisions based on principles rather than emotions, when you take responsibility for your own happiness instead of making it her job, you earn something invaluable: genuine respect. And when a woman genuinely respects her partner, happiness follows naturally. Not because she's obligated to be happy, but because she's inspired to be. Respect creates a positive feedback loop. The more she respects you, the more she wants to support your vision. The more she supports your vision, the more successful you become. The more successful you become, the more respect you earn. It's an upward spiral that builds strength in both partners. But here's the key. This respect must be earned, not expected. Stoic men understand that respect is the natural result of respectable behavior, not something owed to them simply because they exist. Stoic men communicate differently, and this revolutionizes the entire relationship dynamic. Instead of emotional word vomiting or passive-aggressive hints, they speak with intention and clarity. They don't say, "You make me feel ... because they understand that other people don't make them feel anything. They take ownership of their emotional responses. Instead of "You make me angry when you do that," they say, "I feel frustrated when this happens. Let's figure out a better approach." They don't argue to win, they discuss to understand and resolve. The goal isn't to prove they're right, it's to find solutions that work for both people. They don't use guilt, manipulation, or emotional blackmail, because they have the confidence to address issues directly. When something bothers them, they speak up calmly and clearly, rather than hoping their partner will read their mind or pick up on subtle signals. This creates a communication environment where real intimacy can develop. When both people feel safe to express themselves honestly without fear of emotional manipulation or unstable reactions, connection deepens naturally. The Stoic approach to communication also eliminates drama. Drama feeds on emotional reactivity, defensiveness, and power struggles. When you refuse to engage in these patterns, when you stay focused on solutions rather than blame, drama starves and dies. Let's address something that most relationship experts won't tell you. Attraction requires a certain amount of emotional distance, not coldness, not indifference, but the space that comes from being a complete person rather than half of a codependent unit. When you're too emotionally enmeshed, when you share every feeling and thought, when you have no independent emotional life, you eliminate the mystery and challenge that keeps attraction alive. You become predictable, safe in a boring way, rather than safe in a secure way. Stoic men maintain their individual identity within the relationship. They have thoughts, interests, and experiences that don't revolve around their partner. This creates natural curiosity and interest. There's always more to discover, always growth happening, always something new to appreciate. Most men operate from a scarcity mindset in relationships. They believe that if they don't constantly prove their worth, their partner will leave. This creates exhausting, performative relationships where both people are walking on eggshells. Stoic men operate from abundance, not because they don't value their relationship, but because they understand that the only way to keep someone is to be someone worth keeping. And that happens through character development, not desperation. This long-term thinking creates stability. When your wife knows you're not going to change your entire personality based on her moods, when she knows you're committed to growth and improvement regardless of external circumstances, she can relax into the relationship. She doesn't have to constantly test your strength because she trusts it. She doesn't have to worry about whether you'll fall apart during the next challenge because she's seen you handle difficulties with grace. She doesn't have to question whether you'll be the same man she married because you're anchored to principles rather than emotions. Here's the ultimate paradox. The more emotionally independent you become, the more emotionally connected your relationship becomes. When neither person is desperately trying to control the other's emotional state, both people become free to authentically express themselves. Your wife doesn't have to pretend to be happy when she's not to protect your ego. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not to gain her approval. This authenticity creates the kind of intimacy that most couples never experience. Freedom within commitment is what creates lasting love. When both people choose to be together rather than feel trapped together, when both people feel secure enough to be vulnerable, when both people trust that the relationship can handle honesty, magic happens. Stoicism isn't a theoretical philosophy, it's a daily practice. Every interaction with your wife is an opportunity to demonstrate these principles. When she's running late and stressed, you don't add to her stress by being impatient. You handle your own disappointment internally and focus on solutions. When she's excited about something you're not particularly interested in, you don't fake enthusiasm, but you don't dampen hers either. You listen with genuine interest in her experience. When she's going through a difficult period, you don't try to rush her through it or fix it immediately. You provide steady support while she processes what she needs to process. These small, daily demonstrations of emotional maturity accumulate into something powerful: unwavering trust in your character. The strongest relationships aren't built on emotional dependency, they're built on emotional mastery. Stoic men understand that their primary responsibility isn't to make their wives happy, but to be the kind of men who inspire happiness through their presence, their character, and their unwavering commitment to growth. When you master your own emotions, you give your wife permission to feel hers without fear. When you find fulfillment in your purpose, you bring energy to the relationship instead of draining it. When you respond to conflict with wisdom instead of reactivity, you create safety where intimacy can flourish. This isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming emotionally intelligent. It's about understanding that love isn't just a feeling, it's a practice. And the highest practice of love is creating an environment where both people can become their best selves. The happiest wives aren't married to men who try to make them happy. They're married to men who have learned to be happy themselves and who extend that stability, that strength, that calm confidence into every aspect of their shared life. Your emotional mastery isn't selfish. It's the greatest gift you can give to your relationship. It's what allows her to trust you with her heart, her dreams, her fears, and her future. It's what creates the kind of partnership where both people grow stronger together rather than weaker apart. The ancient Stoics understood something modern psychology is just beginning to rediscover. The person who controls themselves controls their destiny. And when you control your destiny, everyone in your orbit benefits from that strength. Start with yourself. Master your reactions. Build your character. Live your purpose. The happiness you create in your own life will naturally overflow into hers. And when it does, you'll understand why Stoic men don't just have relationships, they have partnerships that other people aspire to build. If this shifted how you think about emotional strength in relationships, I want to hear from you. Comment below. I control my focus, and if you're ready to dive deeper into building unshakable inner strength, check out the next video where we explore how Stoic principles can transform every area of your life. The work starts with you, but the benefits extend to everyone you love. Your wife, your children, your friends, everyone benefits when you become the man you're capable of being.